The village of Umudara was a quiet and traditional place where customs were followed without question. Every family knew each other, and the weight of tradition bore heavily on everyone's shoulders. Among them was a widow, Neka, who had lost her husband Obiora a year ago. Despite her grief, she remained faithful to his memory, raising their two children, Shesom and Adelra, with love and discipline. But Umudara had an old law, one that bound widows to their late husband's brothers. A woman left without a husband was not left alone. She was to be inherited by her husband's siblings. For Neka, this meant Marcus, the younger brother of her deceased husband, had the right to claim her as his wife. However, she loathed Marcus. He had always looked at her with lustful eyes, even while her husband was alive. When Obiora was alive, he had always been wary of Marcus. He warned Neka about him, saying that his younger brother had a dark heart and could not be trusted. Now that Obiora was gone, Marcus saw his chance. He approached Neka under the guise of tradition, urging her to accept him, but she refused, standing firm against the law that she saw as oppressive. She wanted to live for her children, not become another man's property. Marcus, enraged by her defiance, began whispering lies to the villagers. He spread rumors that Neka had been seen sneaking around with strange men, that she had forgotten her husband too soon. At first, the villagers dismissed his words, knowing Neka as a hard-working woman, but Marcus was persistent, poisoning minds with each passing day. The women of Umudara, once her friends, turned their backs on her. They gossiped in hushed voices when she walked by, and the men eyed her with suspicion. Her children were mocked in the streets, called the offspring of a woman without honor. Neka felt the weight of shame, though she had done nothing wrong. She could not understand how quickly her people had abandoned her. But Marcus was not done. He wanted her humiliated, broken, and most of all, his. When his words were not enough, he resorted to something even more sinister, a setup. One evening, as Neka returned from the stream, she noticed a stranger in her compound. He was a traveler seeking shelter, or so he claimed. He begged for water and a place to rest for the night. Neka, out of kindness, allowed him to stay outside on her veranda. It was a decision that sealed her fate. In the dead of night, Marcus and his conspirators arrived with torches and accusations. They dragged the poor man from his sleeping place, beat him until he confessed to crimes he had not committed, and then accused Neka of sharing his bed. The village elders were summoned, and before she could defend herself, the judgment was passed. Adultery was a grave sin in Umudara, especially for a widow. The penalty was death by stoning. Neka screamed her innocence, but no one listened. Even the women who once called her sister turned their backs. Her children wept, clutching at her legs, but the elders pried them away. Bound and dragged to the village square, she was made to kneel before the people she had once called family. Her eyes searched for mercy, but all she found were stones in their hands. The first rock struck her cheek, splitting her skin. Then another and another. Pain erupted through her body as stones rained down like a violent storm. Her blood stained the earth as her screams faded into the wind. Her last sight was her children, wailing as they were held back. And then darkness. For weeks, Umudara rejoiced. They believed they had cleansed their land of sin. But soon, the night brought terror. It began with whispers in the wind, cries that seemed to echo from the very ground where Neka's blood had dried. Then came the shadows, creeping through the village like a sickness. And finally, the monster. It emerged from the forest, a towering figure of horror. Its eyes burned red like fire, and its body was covered in rotting flesh, twisted and grotesque. It moved with unnatural speed, dragging its victims into the darkness. Those who saw it and lived swore it was not just a beast, but a vengeful spirit, one that had risen from the grave. Night after night, the killings continued. The villagers found mutilated bodies, torn apart as if by wild animals. The strange part was that the bodies were never whole. Some were missing limbs. Others had their hearts ripped out. No one could explain it. Fear gripped the people of Umudara. The once bustling village became silent as night approached. Doors were locked, fires were extinguished early, and prayers were whispered. But nothing stopped the monster. Marcus was the first to suspect the truth. He had killed Neka, and now something was haunting them. The thought sent chills through his spine. He tried to silence his fears, but each night he awoke to scratching at his door, low growls from something unseen. One night, he swore he saw her, a figure in white, standing at the edge of the forest, her face hidden in shadow. Desperate, the elders called upon the fetish priest, a man of great spiritual power. He performed rituals, speaking to the spirits to understand the cause of their terror. The answer he received left him pale with fear. "It is her," he whispered, "the woman you killed in innocence. Her soul does not rest. Her anger has given birth to a curse." Panic spread like wildfire. The villagers begged for a solution, but the priest shook his head. "Only her blood can cleanse the land, but she is no longer of this world." Marcus, now a shadow of himself, locked himself away. He knew the monster was coming for him, and it did. On the 7th night, the village awoke to his screams. When they found his body, his chest was torn open, his heart missing. The priest gathered the people and declared the only way to end the curse, they must dig up Neka's body and perform a ritual of atonement. With trembling hands, they unearthed her grave. But what they found was not a corpse. The coffin was empty. Terror swept through Umudara. The monster was not a mere ghost. It was Neka, reborn in vengeance. The priest, with his final breath before he too was taken, warned them, "You have killed an innocent woman. Now, she will never forgive you." The killings continued until the village was nearly abandoned. Those who remained lived in constant fear. No one dared to speak Neka's name, for even in death she listened. Even in death she watched. And when the wind howled through the trees at night, the people of Umudara whispered one truth: the woman they had wronged had returned, and she would never rest.